Welcome back, everyone. Today, we're going deep on something really fascinating. We're going to be talking about an encounter, actually, between physicist Stephen Hawking and a writer and journalist named Firdaus Kanga,
Hmm.
two individuals who, navigated life with disabilities.
Yeah, definitely. That adds a really interesting layer to their conversation.
And Kanga actually traveled, get this, all the way from India to meet Hawking in Cambridge.
Wow, what a journey. I mean, it speaks volumes about the impact Hawking had.
Absolutely. And their conversation, well, it just gives you, some profound insights into resilience, perspective, and what it really means to live a fulfilling life,
Yeah.
even when you're facing huge challenges.
Right, right, because it's easy to focus on those challenges, but their conversation seems to go beyond that.
Yeah, for sure. And Kanga, when he was writing about his trip to meet Hawking, he had this mix of nerves and excitement.
Oh, I can imagine. I mean, crossing continents to meet someone you admire so much. Someone
Yeah.
who, like, defied expectations and achieved incredible things despite facing physical challenges.
It's pretty incredible, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it really makes you think about the power of representation. Seeing someone who shares, your challenges, but they're out there thriving in the world, it can change everything. Your aspirations, what you think is possible.
I mean, you hit the nail on the head, really. It makes a huge difference. And, Kanga talks about growing up and always being told to be brave. But he found it strange. Like, was bravery something you could just pull out of thin air?
Right. Like, how do you just be brave on command?
Exactly. And this reminded me of something Hawking actually said during their meeting. He said, I haven't been brave. I've had no choice.
Wow, that's powerful. And so, a matter of fact, like, he's not making a big deal out of it. He just lived his life.
It's true.
Yeah.
But Kanga actually points out something really interesting about that statement. He asks if living creatively with a body that's, disintegrating isn't actually a choice in itself.
Yeah, I see what you mean. That adds another layer to the whole idea of bravery.
It does. And this whole encounter actually made Kanga face some uncomfortable feelings, too.
Really? Like what?
He felt guilty every time he spoke to Hawking
Oh.
because he knew that it forced Hawking to use his voice synthesizer. And he even describes like watching Hawking tap at this small switch, just searching for words on his computer screen, his eyes closing with exhaustion, but his mind still racing.
Oh, wow. It really highlights the effort, the effort it took for Hawking to communicate.
It does. It makes you think about all the emotional labor that often falls on disabled individuals in social interactions.
That's a great point. It's not always easy, for sure. But despite all of that, Hawking kept his sharp wit.
Yeah, he did. And Kanga actually asked him, do you laugh inside? And Hawking's reply, well, it was classic Hawking. He said, I find it amusing when people patronize me.
You gotta love that. Subverting expectations, turning it around, and finding humor in it.
It's really amazing. And it seems like that's a big part of what Kanga finds so captivating about Hawking. Because then he goes on to describe Hawking as, get this, one of the most beautiful men in the world.
That's interesting, especially considering, Hawking's physical condition. What did he mean by that?
Well, I think it's important to remember that Kanga wasn't focused on just the physical form. He was seeing Hawking's resilience, his intellect, that inner strength, and he saw that essence shining through, and that's what he found beautiful.
It's a different way of thinking about beauty, isn't it? Looking beyond the surface and seeing the strength of character, of spirit.
It really is. And Kanga uses this powerful analogy to describe it. He says that Hawking is like a lantern whose walls are worn so thin you glimpse only the light inside.
Oh, wow, that's such a striking image. The worn-out lantern representing the frail physical body and the brilliant light. That's the strength of Hawking's mind and spirit. It's beautiful.
It really is. And this encounter, it wasn't just Kanga admiring a brilliant mind. It was also a personal journey for him, trying to understand his own disability.
Right, and I remember he tells Hawking, I think you do discover how much kindness there is in the world.
And surprisingly, Hawking actually agreed.
It's true, though, isn't it? I mean, there's a vulnerability that comes with disability, and sometimes that vulnerability brings out the best in people, that compassion, the support, the kindness.
Yeah, you're so right. It makes you see the world in a whole new way. And on the flip side, Kanga talks about feeling a huge relief and exhilaration in the possibilities of his own body, just by doing simple things like moving in his wheelchair or turning his wrist.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
It really shows how shifting your perspective can help you find strength and possibility, even in situations that might seem limiting at first.
It's about recognizing that limitations are often subjective, right?
Right.
What one person sees as a restriction, another person might find freedom and ability in it.
Exactly. It's all about perspective.
It really is.
Yeah.
But I'm curious, what did Stephen Hawking, this brilliant mind who had lived with disability for so long, what did he have to say about Kanga's experience and perspective?
Well, he gave some very straightforward advice. He said that disabled individuals should, quote, concentrate on what they're good at.
Okay, interesting. Direct, like you said.
He even went so far as to say that events like the Disabled Olympics are a waste of time.
Really? Wow, that's definitely thought-provoking. It makes you think about how we define achievement. Was he being dismissive of those achievements, or was he encouraging people to focus on their own strengths, their own talents? I don't know, it's something to think about.
Yeah, for sure. It definitely sparks a lot of questions about different perspectives on achievement and what it means to succeed.
Yeah, it does raise a lot of questions. And, it brings us to this really interesting anecdote that Kanga shares. He talks about struggling to play a Spanish guitar, one that was just too big for him.
Oh, I remember that.
He tried for years, to make it work. But one night, he just decided to, unstring it.
It's a powerful image, isn't it? Letting go.
It is. It makes you think about letting go of those unattainable goals and really embracing what's possible, what's truly fulfilling for you.
Yeah, sometimes we hold on to things that just aren't meant to be, and it takes a lot of courage to finally let go. But when we do, it can be incredibly freeing.
I think so, too. And as their meeting came to an end, how did Kinga describe those final moments?
Well, he talked about this unspoken connection, a kind of understanding between them. The sun was setting, and it made it hard for Hawking to see his computer screen, so their conversation was limited.
Oh, I see.
But even though they couldn't talk as much, there was a sense of camaraderie, like they both just, understood each other's experiences and perspectives.
It sounds like a really profound encounter.
Yes.
Two minds connecting despite, physical limitations and all those societal expectations. They really challenged those perceptions, redefined beauty, and showed us the strength of the human spirit.
Definitely. And Kanga left feeling like he had met an embodiment of his bravest self. Someone who showed him what resilience and determination could really look like.
This has been such an incredible deep dive. We've covered so much ground just from this one meeting between these two amazing individuals. Resilience, perspective, challenging those societal norms, finding beauty and strength in unexpected places.
It's amazing how much we've unpacked from just this one encounter.
And it reminds us that limitations, whether they're physical or something else entirely, they don't have to define us. We have the power to choose how we respond to them. And that choice, well, that can be incredibly empowering.
I completely agree. And it makes me think about how often I focus on what people can't do rather than their capabilities. It's a real shift in perspective.
I've been realizing the same thing. And this conversation has been a real eye-opener in that way.
It's a good reminder, I think, to look for those strengths and talents that each person brings to the table rather than just focusing on limitations.
This deep dive wasn't just about disability, though. It was about the human spirit and how we adapt, find meaning, and connect with others who understand our unique challenges. And sometimes, like Kanga, letting go of that Spanish guitar, letting go of what we thought was essential, can open up a whole new world of freedom and possibility.
Absolutely. That image of the guitar has really stuck with me too. It's about knowing ourselves, being honest about our capabilities, and having the courage to let go of the things that aren't serving us anymore.
It's about aligning our goals with our true strengths and finding fulfillment in the journey itself. And out of everything we've discussed, what stands out to you the most?
That's a tough one. There's been so much to think about. But I think Kanga's description of Hawking as one of the most beautiful men in the world, that really got to me. It just challenges how we think about beauty and reminds us to look beyond what's on the surface.
That really resonated with me too. It emphasizes those unseen qualities, the strength of character, the brilliant mind that make each person truly remarkable.
And it speaks to the power of diversity, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It's not just about recognizing diversity, but truly celebrating it. Embracing those different perspectives, learning from people who experience the world in ways we might not. It's about understanding that those differences make our collective human experience so much richer. This conversation has given me a lot to ponder, and I hope it's done the same for you. Inspiration can come from unexpected sources, and sometimes those differences that we might see as dividing lines can actually be a source of incredible strength and connection.
Yeah, it really has. For me too. This whole deep dive, it's really made me think differently about, about limitations. Kaminga's whole journey to meet Hawking and just everything he said about their conversations, it's been so insightful.
I agree. It's like their meeting, it gives us this whole new way to look at things, like resilience, how we communicate, and all those ideas about disability that we just take for granted. And earlier we were talking about that advice Hawking gave about how disabled people should, what was it? Yeah, concentrate on what they are good at. And he even said those disabled Olympics were a waste of time. Those were some pretty strong statements.
Yeah, definitely. And they've been kind of, well, controversial. I mean, some people might think Hawking was just being practical, like focus your energy on where you can make the biggest difference. But others might feel like he's minimizing how important it is to be visible, to have representation, especially in something like sports.
It's tricky. I mean, maybe his own experiences, the limitations he had to deal with, shaped how he saw things. But I think there's something bigger to consider here.
I think you're right. It's about recognizing our strengths no matter what our circumstances are and putting our energy into the things we can really excel at. Doesn't mean we ignore the challenges or pretend limitations don't exist. It's more about finding a path that works for us, that fits with our abilities, what we love to do.
That makes sense. It's about embracing what makes us unique, what we're good at, and going for goals that let us, truly thrive, like Hawking did, like Kanga did.
Right, and it's knowing when to let go of things, too. Like, remember Kanga talking about unstringing that guitar? Sometimes letting go can be the most powerful thing you do, so you can focus on what really matters.
Absolutely. We've had a lot to think about in this deep dive, challenging how we see limitations, appreciating how powerful it is to see ourselves represented, and recognizing just how beautiful and resilient the human spirit is.
And I think the biggest takeaway for me is that inspiration can come from anywhere. And those things we think divide us, well, they can actually be a source of strength, a way to connect with each other.
Well said. As we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with something to think about. Think about a time when you saw someone overcoming limitations. What did their resilience teach you about what we're all capable of? Let their story inspire you to embrace your own strengths, challenge your own assumptions, and work towards a world where everyone has the chance to shine no matter what.
Everyone has a story to tell. Everyone has something unique to offer the world. And when we embrace those differences, when we learn from each other, that's how we create a world that's more inclusive, more vibrant.
And on that note, thanks for joining us on this incredible journey. Until next time, keep diving deep and keep exploring this fascinating world around us.